Welcome back, everybody, to the Tapping School Summit. Today, you're in for a treat because one of my personal favorite practitioners of all time is with us. Laura Parkinson is here to talk all things tapping and trauma. I know this is going to be a wildly popular topic because EFT traditionally is known as a trauma technique and tool, and Laura is one of my go-to people for it. She also is a teacher and co-facilitator inside Tapping School, has been since the very beginning. So someone I deeply trust and lean upon. And Laura, welcome to the Tapping School Summit. I'm so excited you're here. I would love for you to share with everyone, who you are, what you do, and what brought you to tapping.
Oh my gosh. Well, first of all, thank you so much for that introduction. I am so honored. So what brought me to tapping was actually Jackie McDonald brought me to tapping many years ago now. I believe it was 2018 and maybe even 2017. I'm not sure. 2017, 2018, when you're tapping on Facebook way
It's
back then.
I was thinking about that. I think it was 2017 that I met you in 2018. We got to meet in person and tap in person
Yeah,
together.
right. That was it. Yeah. So it's been a long time. And fast forward to now I'm an advanced tapping practitioner. And like you said, I'm so grateful to be a facilitator in tapping school. It's like one of my favorite things is to teach tapping and to help guide people how to create like their own beautiful practice with tapping and of course, like serve the world through it. I'm also a trauma expert and a therapeutic coach. And so my work is very like energy psychology based. So I combine tapping with a lot of energy work, a lot of energy medicine. We flow a lot of light. We do a lot of cool things. I like to say that in my practice, we spend a lot of time working outside of time. And when it comes to trauma, this is actually a really beautiful and effective way to heal your trauma efficiently and holistically is to work outside of time, bring spirit or source or energy or whatever you want to call it into the equation. And that's, yeah. And so I have a private practice where I do that. And then I also offer courses and mentorship and all that good stuff.
Yeah, and I send so many people your way. Like the results from clients that I've seen are just phenomenal. Like people, like even with a lot of physical pain or just limitations, not knowing what's going on, to like completely thriving in the world. So yeah, can't speak highly enough about you and your work.
Gosh, thank you.
And I would love for you to share what you did before you became a tapping practitioner, sharing a little bit about social work and all that.
Okay, yeah. So before I became a tapping practitioner, I was a social worker in the field of child welfare. I managed group homes for high-risk children and youth in ministry care. And I did that for about a decade.
Wow.
And yeah, it was, you know, uh, these um, these sorts of giving giving back sort of professions like social work, teaching, nursing, counseling tend to attract people who are empathic, right? Who are highly sensitive, who see the suffering in the world and are hyper aware of it, and then they want to do something to help. And so that was totally me. Um, and it was great. And it was, it was painful. And so I had my own, everybody, you cannot be a human on this planet and not have trauma. And yet we don't always acknowledge it as such. But for me, I brought all of that to social work and I did some really, really good work there. And then I also like accrued some more trauma. And then I met you at a time in my life where I realized this is not actually healthy for me and it was hurting my body and sort of like slowly killing myself trying to hold all of like all of people's traumas, all of people's wounds. And tapping really transformed my life. I had a lot of anxiety. I had yeah, just a significant amount of anxiety, always sort of like borderlined on like, oh, could I be depressed? I'm not sure. Had a lot of pain in my body, suffered from a lot of migraines. And then through tapping with you and, really discovering the power of tapping, and you are like such an incredible teacher and such a beautiful guide, and you hold such compassionate space. I was able, I mean, as you know, it feels funny because I'm telling you the story, but I'm really telling, everybody listening this story that I was really truly able to alchemize my anxiety, I like to call it, because it's not about wanting to shun this part of myself or get rid of it. It also isn't about identifying with being an anxious person, but it was, what is this anxiety teaching me? What is the message this anxiety has for me? And then through that process, I was able to, no longer feel its presence in my body and holding me back in life. So tapping is really profoundly, and then now I'm a tapping practitioner, and this is what I do full time, and I have since 2019, so it's been a long time that it's not only served me, but it's also served a lot of other people, which I'm so grateful for through being able to share it. So I just can't say enough good things about tapping.
I love that you shared your story because I know there's people that have like the same depth that you do in terms of wanting to help other people, and maybe you're in a profession that is like soul sucking and they're like there's got to be
Mm,
a way. So that's like one aspect to it, and that like it's just always been in your heart to serve people that are in like sometimes some really dark spots. And I
mhm.
wanted to bring that up because what drew you to doing specifically tapping on trauma? Because we can tap on different things. You can, there's people that tap on weight loss or money or relationships, but what made you choose tapping and trauma as your like area you wanted to go all in on?
Well, because I'm no stranger to like going into the darkness
Mhm.
and shining a light in there and seeing what gifts are waiting. I mean, that's really my jam. I know so many people are like, couldn't do what you do. I don't know how you do that, but I love it. I love it. I love yeah, I'm not afraid of going into those, dark parts. And I don't say dark with any judgment. That's not like dark, like light is better than dark. Like there's no judgment in it. It's just that that's how we tend to see those parts for ourselves because we don't want to acknowledge them. So we're not shining a light on them, right? We don't want to shine a light on our wounds and have to look at them and have to, do something with them, tend to them, triage them, whatever. And so, they tend to be parts of ourselves that feel darker, feel overwhelming. And I think, I'm not here to like tell my whole life story, but I have my own experiences with trauma and with darkness, and I've been navigating this stuff, for a really long time. And just understand what is actually available to us there because there is so much goodness and there are so many gifts. I like to call them golden nuggets in, we can mine that darkness for the gold within and bring that into our lives now.
So if somebody's listening and they're like, but how do I begin? Because I'm freaked out of what I might find. Because I find that with people sometimes they're like, I know
Yeah.
some stuff, but like, what if something pops up? What would you say?
Yeah, well, what I would say is we never like dive right in. That's not, that's like not a good idea, especially if there's fear around it. We don't want to do that. So in my practice, in my beliefs, really, in like how I live my life and how I work with my clients, is step one is we want to really lean on the power of your heart. And I know that might sound a bit intangible, and people might be like, well, what the hell does that even mean? But there are tangible things that we can do to activate a powerful connection with our heart. And our heart is the power source of our being, right? Our heart is the nucleus of and we aren't, you might have noticed I said being, not just body, because we're more than just this body. Not to discount the purpose of this body. It's obviously incredibly important. But so the first step is to start to create a connection with your heart, start to activate the heart, a heart coherence, people like to call it, because that heart will generate power. It will generate safety. You will remember your divine connection to all things. You will remember that you're not alone. And so yeah, we want to create safety. And so, from my view, from my experience, and from what I know, going to the heart first is the fastest way to create safety and healing.
That's so key. So if someone's like, okay, I know I have some trauma work, probably things to work through. I don't know where to begin. Your suggestion is to just like bring your attention to your heart. And how do you do that? Do you just get them to close their eyes, or is there a certain process you take them through?
Yeah, there is. So I get them to close their eyes. I get them to breathe in and out of the heart as if the heart were a lung. So watching the heart expand with the breath and then contract with the breath and really starting to develop a connection with your heart. That's called activating the heart breath. And from that, I invite people to notice a light in their heart. So maybe it's a spark, maybe it's a little flame, maybe it's a star. And then continuing to breathe, we fan that light. So it gets bigger and brighter until that heart fills up or that light fills up the chest. You can feel your whole body, you can feel your energy field, you can feel your home. And what happens is you'll start to feel a buzzing in your body. You'll start to feel energy where maybe you didn't feel any energy at all. Because that, I mean, the heart, I believe that the heart is the doorway into, the oneness of all things. It is our connection to our soul self. It is where the truth of who we are truly resides, the essence of us. And so oftentimes when we have trauma, well, everybody has layers and layers and layers of all sorts of, programming and beliefs and, limitations and pain and judgments and all these things layered on top of the essence of who they are. And then so they believe that who I am here right now is the truth of who I am. Like, I am no good. I can't figure my shit out. I'm never going to find love. I'm never going to love myself. I'm never going to be free of this pain. I'll never be healthy, blah, 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 blah. Like all of those stories. But that's actually not the truth of who you are at all. That's just the you who is here on Earth School to actually work your way through all of those layers. So you bring that true soul self into this physical life and you begin creating your life from here. It's, yeah, it's magical work.
It is so magical. And what you just described, I'm sure people are like, wow, I want that, whatever that is. Show me how to do it. This sounds amazing. And I just want to like reiterate to people that maybe haven't done any like soulful work, energy work, this kind of work before, that tapping will never take you any place that you're not ready for. So tapping is like one of the most safe and gentle modalities that I know of, because you might just start tapping like, I'm feeling tired today, with the awareness there's something deeper to heal. And that tiredness can open up the door, like you said, a nugget of gold, to a moment in time or another symptom in your body that will slowly show you what needs to be healed. And that there's, I mean, you can speak to this, but there's big T traumas and little T traumas. So a big T trauma could be something like a car accident, when a little T trauma could be something that is like, maybe you had an anxiety on a plane once, and that, did nothing bad happened, but it just created this moment for you.
Mhm.
So I don't know if you want to speak to that at all, but I think that it is important for people to know that if you are tapping on trauma for the first time, not to be afraid of it. I always say it won't take you where you're not ready to go. And especially
Mhm.
working with a skilled practitioner like Laura, like it will be one of the most freeing experiences of your life, in my experience.
And I would totally reiterate that. And tapping is actually the thing, in my view, tapping is actually the thing that's going to really help your body feel safe in the process,
Mhm.
right? So we can trust the tapping to move energy, and we do. Like that's what we do with tapping. And we can also layer on more healing modalities on top of tapping. I know I have a lot of friends who do tapping in Reiki, right? Or tapping in hypnosis. And so the tapping is like this foundation that acts as a dimmer switch for the nervous system, helps your body feel safe. And so as you're tapping and even potentially doing all of this other incredible, work, maybe you're working outside of time, you're back in a past, moment in time and you're rearranging something, the tapping in the moment is still like recalibrating your nervous system, reprogramming the neural pathways of your brain. It's like you can layer all of these things on top, and it's so gentle.
Yeah, and it will get, I always say it like gives you that sensation of like when you go for a massage and you're really relaxed after, it's like that, but like on the inside, like tapping makes you feel good even when you're working through some really intense
Mhm.
in it. And for people that have anxiety or things like that, it's continually regulating your nervous system in the moment. So it's like you're not feeling heightened and intense and like, I don't want to talk about this again. It's bringing that calming sensation down.
Absolutely. And so when it comes to trauma, we can even tap like around the traumatic event itself, to really, like, if we see the traumatic event as like this, it's this big red heart or this big red circle and it's sitting on my heart, we can tap around that to like make it smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller until it's safe to actually look at it. Versus, I don't want to put down any other modalities. I mean, a social worker for 10 years, so I bring all of that counseling and all of those things. But when we're just talking about something and we're not actually giving energy an opportunity to move, and we are energy in a body, and we are when we have a trauma, either a big or a little, there is a area of containment within the body where that trauma has been stored. And so we can talk about it till we're blue in the face. And oftentimes we can actually if it is this big red circle, we can make it bigger and bigger and bigger by talking about it. And if we don't actually give that energy in the body an escape route, a way to move, a way to shift, we could just be adding to that trauma over and over again. And then you might feel, right? You'll feel exhausted when you leave the therapist, or maybe you'll even be re-traumatized, or, I have so many people who've come through my practice who have said, I've worked on this thing for 10 years in therapy. I can't believe it's coming up now, but now it's gone. And it's not that anybody did anything wrong. It's just that we were kind of forgetting this key piece, that we're actually energy in a body. And so we're not just our thoughts that come out of our mouths or even the things that happen to us. We need to move that energy.
I love that you said this, because I'm like, if I had $1 for every time someone said, yeah, but I've worked on this before, but then they tap on it and they're mind blowing because they're like,
Mind blown.
and I really do think it is the somatic piece. Like
Yeah.
tapping the somatic tool means the body and the mind. And it's not just like quietly meditating and not saying anything. You're talking and you're working with the body. So, I mean, you and I can preach on this all day, but I'm going to go over to you. I shared so many tips already, but did you have any additional tips for anyone around tapping and trauma that you wanted to share today?
I have two more tips.
Awesome.
Well, I have lots of tips. So let me decide which one I want to share. Okay, so the first one that I'm going to share is you have to have a level of willingness. And so that's not to say that you might not be skeptical or you might think that it's not going to work for you. But and I'm talking specifically about trauma and tapping, right? There has to be a level of willingness, because what the willingness does is it helps you take responsibility for your healing, right? A level of willingness is going to help and we tap on this, right? So we can tap on, we can clear what's standing in the way of being willing. We can clear what's standing in the way of not wanting to take responsibility. But when we bring in that energy of willingness, we like really can fast track your healing. So yeah, got to be willing.
Come with a willing attitude, and like, so being willing to heal the trauma or being willing to go deep, or both?
Well, being willing to heal the trauma.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think everybody needs to go deep. And I think there's a time and a place to go deep, but being willing to heal the trauma, being willing to work on taking responsibility to heal the trauma.
Awesome. Okay, good clarification. What's the next
Yeah.
tip?
Okay, so the next tip is a like take it or leave it. But this is like my view, is bring spirit into the equation. So whether this is, God or source or universe or spirit or, whatever you want to call it. But when you bring this acknowledgement again of this energetic connection to something bigger than us, your healing will be so much faster. I can literally guarantee you, your tapping will be so much more efficient. Your tapping will take you to places that you would be really hard pressed to get to if you weren't willing to acknowledge that I'm not alone. Because that's what bringing spirit into the equation does. It acknowledges that I'm not alone. I was never alone. I was never alone in the experience of the trauma. Even when I forgot, love was there. Even when I forgot, spirit was there. Even when I forgot, I was actually never alone. And so when you bring that into a trauma healing journey, it can create really profound shifts really quickly.
That's so key. I mean, I've worked with a lot of people with really chronic illnesses and with tapping, and that's one of the huge contributors to their rapid healing is when they believe in something bigger than themselves.
Yeah.
Like I've seen some phenomenal results with chronic illness specifically, and that's one of the main themes is that they have a connection to something greater. And like you said, whatever it is, like some of them are religious and it's God, some of them are spiritual and it's source or spirit. Really doesn't matter what you call it, but
Really
I
doesn't matter.
love it because it's true. Like when you're going through something traumatic, it sometimes you do feel alone, but when you tap on it, you can look back and you can feel, like you say, the presence of something greater with you in that moment.
Exactly.
Yeah, these are so great, Laura. Thank you so much. So,
You're welcome.
I mean, like I said, we could talk on this all day, but the 3 tips are be willing, connect to something greater than yourself, and start with the heart, right? Like
Yeah.
really feeling connected to the heart. Anything else that you want to share with people that are considering tapping on trauma? Any words of advice or guidance for where they would begin before we sign off?
Yeah. Just start. Even if it's just bringing the practice of tapping into your life, you don't even have to talk about trauma. You don't even have to talk about how you're feeling. You can just tap. You can just try tapping. Give your body the gift of that. Give your nervous system the gift of that. And yeah, just be open.
I love it. So true. And I always say tapping finds you when you're ready for it. So if you happen to be listening to this today,
hmm
listening to tapping on trauma, it's not a mistake. It finds you when you're ready for it. So I know you put together this amazing 4-part mini course on how, can you share with us what it's called, what it's about, what they can expect?
Yeah, so it's called The Heart's Power to Heal. And so it's a 4-part mini course. There's a little introduction from me that goes into detail on what I'm actually talking about with the heart. And hopefully I like convince you of the power of your heart and its place within your life to create magic. And then there's a 3-part tapping series that follows after that to really help you remove anything standing in the way, right? Like any of that doubt or any of those reasons why, well, maybe this isn't for me, and maybe my heart's not actually that powerful. And then it moves you to really feeling that deep connection with your heart's power to heal, to generate energy, to generate love, to manifest, to create magic in your life.
Wow, it's so funny because this is coming to me at the perfect time. Like I had some heart stuff happen last year. I think most people know this, but I took birth control that gave me blood clots in my heart. And that's one thing I'm working on is like healing my physical heart. And I'm like,
Yeah,
maybe I should do some tapping on it because
maybe you should.
sure. So
Yeah.
this is really powerful. Even if you have physical things with your heart, like try this. Just go try it. It's free. Like I promise you, anything you do with Laura is gonna blow your mind. I know it's free, but it's like, yeah, your stuff is worth so much. So thank you so much, Laura, for coming today, sharing with this audience this resource. We'll put it in the link below, so you have access to it. And where can people find you online if they want to connect?
They can find me at my website, selfloverebel.com, or on Instagram, and it's self.love.rebel.
Amazing. So go
Yeah,
check out Laura on Instagram, go check out her website. And if they have any questions, can they just reach out to you on Instagram or on your website?
absolutely. I
Amazing.
would
All
love
right.
that.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you, Laura. We'll
Thank
see
you,
you all next
Jackie.
time.
Thanks,
Bye.
everyone. Bye.